Hi, you guys. Welcome to this week's episode of Enlightened Investments Podcast. This week we have our special guest.
Hi, my name is Ailisha Macharia. I'm coming here today as just my full self. There's definitely many intersections to who I am, but I'd say today I'm presenting as an herbalist, a land worker, a community organizer, a community cook, um, an archivist for my family and my family lineage, um, a spiritualist, someone who is just on their spiritual journey, very much in the belly of it. And and an energy worker. I am the owner of an apothecary called Wanjiro's Apothecary that I started in 2021. And for my full-time job, I organize community cooking classes full-time. So yeah, I feel like I am like a lot of things, but I feel like that's like, that's just the vibe. Like you can't put us in a box. So yeah.
Yes, I love that. So that was a great start. I'm glad that you listed all of the different things that you do because in a previous episode with, I think Jasmine, you know Jasmine?
Yeah, I love Jasmine. Yeah, from
Um,
Casa Chiron.
yeah.
Yeah.
She was talking about like knowing your why and
Mhm.
like allowing that to fuel everything that you do, even if the what you're doing changes. And it sounds like your why is the same in all the different roles that you play. It's just different avenues that you're able to put that energy into. And that's very beautiful. It may sound overwhelming or daunting to someone who's not used to wearing so many hats, but it makes sense in spiritual terms because it's like I'm showing up in the world as my spiritual self and my physical self in all of my roles, whether professional or philanthropic.
Yeah.
So I like that you said that. But that was like it reminded me of what she said in that moment. Like I heard her voice saying that in my head. Okay. So before we get into these juicy questions, I do want to go back to the question that you just asked me before we started recording. She asked me, why did I start this podcast? Why did I feel it necessary to do these interviews and start this now? And I told her, I am looking to build spiritual community. I don't find that I am able to have these conversations in a space of community and feel safe regularly. So to create a space where I can do that every week and have it also be beneficial to other people, it just meant a lot for me. And then I talked about how I tried to do this in 2020 and it just didn't, like, something just didn't hit, something didn't feel right, but how I've had a completely different experience now. And you were saying that, you kind of feel the same way in terms of building community in certain aspects. So I want you to go a little bit deeper into that before we get too far off and forget.
Yeah, I was actually having this conversation the other day with one of my friends, Taylor, who is also another Black woman who she owns an apothecary called Mama Mangoes. And we were talking about like, just like the ritual work that we do or the work around like hoodoo or, just like ancestral veneration or just like the practices that we have. And we're both talking about how like sometimes that work can feel very isolating because a lot of the times, like, we're just practicing in a silo. Like, I'm just here in my living room at my altar, talking with my ancestors, and I do feel like their spirit and their communion with me. But a lot of the times, I maybe can count on like one hand, the amount of people that I'm able to like sit down and have a conversation about just like what I'm doing or the work that I'm doing And so actually we decided to start a monthly gathering. Our first monthly gathering is gonna be on September 24th. So like one day after the autumnal equinox at Earth Commons in East Austin, and we're gonna be starting to do community conjure days for Black root workers, herbalists, conjure people, where we can just like come together and like practice together. Because I also feel like there's like a certain like there like I'm really interested by like alchemy too, because it's like there's work that I can do by myself, but it's like the work that I've been able to do with like my sisters or in community is on like another level, you know.
Yes.
It is. So yeah, when you're talking about wanting to feel more like connected, or you know, to be able to share our experiences a little bit more, I just felt really aligned with that, because I'm like, yeah, I like, you know, it's like sometimes you just be talking to the ancestors. Like I'm literally like I'm looking over at the altar while I'm talking to you. And it's like, yeah, I be talking with them, but it's like, you know, sometimes I wish I could have more spaces where we can just like talk about this and share about this. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm so sad that I'm going to be traveling to Mississippi to see my mom that
Oh,
day. Her birthday is on the 25th of September, but I would so love to come to that.
yes.
Uh.
We're gonna be doing them monthly though. So yeah,
Nice. I'm definitely gonna come to the one in October. Do not have it on Halloween because that's my anniversary, but otherwise I
okay.
will be there. Um, but no, I am getting to a point now where honestly, spirit is just like, because I'm a Scorpio rising, I'm a Capricorn sun, I'm
Mm,
just a Leo moon. Like I don't really do people like that,
yeah.
but it's always been important to me to build spiritual community because I've seen what that can do, how it serves not only as a catalyst to me, but to everyone who I end up working with, or to just everyone who's a part of the group or community. It's just something about shared experiences and shared intention that is just very powerful, even if you're not necessarily doing work together. But imagine if you are doing the work together, like multiplies things tenfold. So
Hmm.
I'm just like, I gotta stop being so isolated all the time. And if I want to build a community, I can't just say that and not do anything to build it. Like I have to get out there and build it and make
Yeah.
connections and, you know, just say hi to people and ask them if they want to be a part of it. And you never know what you're gonna get. Like I've done interviews with people who I never thought I would sit down and talk to. It's like great. And this is only the beginning. So I'm like, it's only gonna go up from here. So it is like we need that. We just need that in today's time. Everything is so divided and separatist. And honestly, Spirit has just been telling me like we need community, we need compassion, we need to learn how to work together. Like I just keep hearing that in my head. And if we can do that and be disciplined about it, beautiful things can happen, seriously.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, I don't
Yeah.
know why. Oh, my heart started beating fast.
It's it's interesting because when I hear you talk about it, like the image that I get in my mind is like imagining the sound of like one trumpet versus like a whole marching band, you know?
Yes.
It's like that you know, it's just another level of like magic, like to see when it's like we are organized, you know, when we know how to work together, when we share that responsibility, and to see how the work can like multiply is really beautiful. And I feel like that's like what we've been missing. And I mean, a lot of it has been like intentional and very systematic. Like these practices have been, you know, condemned and demonized, you know, through colonization. And so, like, it is a purposeful thing that we've had to like practice in private. because you know that lessens the magic, right? So yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm glad that you're like aligned with that because I needed to share that here, but I haven't. I don't know why, not for any specific reason. I told you nobody has just asked me the question, but that's really it. Okay, so I always ask everyone the same question first. How did you get started on your spiritual journey? Like, what happened that you were like, I can't just keep doing what everyone else does. I can't just pretend like I don't know there's more. Like, what happened?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say I've been doing a lot of inner child work lately, and I realized that like I've kind of always had certain abilities growing up. Like I would hear things or I would see things, and I was like a dancer growing up, and so I realized a lot of that work that was like coming through my body, that was like mediumship work. But really what was my initiation was losing my dad. So I my dad passed away in 2016. And I was like, essentially was battling with cancer for many years. I want to say maybe 6 or 7 years before he passed. But that last round of chemo that he did, I was there with him a lot, like through his transition. And so in a way, I didn't really understand it at the time, but I was almost doing like death doula work. Like and so just being with him during those like last moments, and even being with him while he transitioned and while he passed, that was the first time that I really understood, because on my mom's side, we're Vietnamese, and it is very much a part of like our cultural tradition to like talk to our ancestors. Growing up, we would go to my great grandmother's grave every year on the anniversary of like when she passed, and like burn incense and pray. And so growing up, I would hear that of like pray to your ancestors, talk to your ancestors, but I didn't really understand the depth of that until I went from having like a human relationship with my father to having a spiritual one. um, and him experiencing him like becoming an ancestor, um, and like his ascension too. And so, um, at first I would say like the first year I had like a lot of stuckness around it. Like I didn't really know how, and I didn't really open myself up to that relationship. But I remember having a conversation with my mom and my brother, and I'd be like, do you guys talk to dad? And they're like, yeah, we talk to him all the time. It's like sometimes I'll be like in the car having a conversation with him, or just like ask him a question or something. And so I remember being like, okay, like maybe I should just like open up and try. And then I remember that night, I think I just like said, like I'm open to a relationship, like maybe asked him some questions, and then I went to bed that night, and then in my dream, he like appeared in my dream, and I actually heard his voice, and he just said my name, but like the tone in which he said it was like how I would imagine him saying it after like not seeing me for a long time. Like he was trying to grab my attention. And then I remember in the dream, he just like picked me up, like gave me a hug, and then just like laid me back down. And then there was another time where I was like journaling, and I like asked him a question in my journal, and I ended up going home like the next day, and then my sister came to me, and she had like two postcards that he had written to me and were addressed to me, that just like he never sent, or that she just found. And like that was kind of my initiation into understanding of like, okay, I can like be in communication with the ancestors. I can ask them questions. And that really opened my mind because I'm like, if I can do that with my dad, like I can do that with any of my ancestors, you know? And so that kind of like opened up like the faucet. And since then it's been, I mean, it's been about like 7 years now. Actually, it's really interesting because you know, we're like in the year of seven, which is like the year of like spiritual transformation, and to see like where I was like 7 years ago in my journey versus now has been really interesting. But yeah, I would say my initiation into like ancestral veneration and just like the practices that I have now was through the passing of my dad and him becoming an ancestor.
Nice, nice. Okay, I like that. So let me ask you this question then. Do you feel that being able to be in relationship with your ancestors and really speaking to them, venerating them, spending time with them, do you feel like it has made a profound difference in your physical life? And if so, how?
Absolutely. Oh my God. Like the way that I just feel like I don't even run my life anymore. I'm just like, listen, I'm not driving. It's whatever they want. Because I don't know if you've felt this way, but like I feel like sometimes when that like those we've been separated from those practices as a family, and then there's finally like one person in the lineage that is like open to it.
Mhm.
Sometimes I feel like that it just like all the ancestors just come through rushing through so strongly.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
they do.
yeah, but I would say the way that it has manifested it, like to your question, yes, absolutely. The way that it really has manifested is that they have just been like very clear on like your assignment is to like make sure that you remember our like ancestral practices, that you make sure that you like archive them and teach them, you know, to your lineage and like to your community. I was working in social services before, and I remember just feeling like so out of alignment and just really burnt out.
Mhm.
And so they literally, because I'm stubborn, so it's like, and that's not just my fault because I know my ancestors be stubborn too. So I mean, so I just be working myself to oblivion and then work myself until my ancestors are like, we're gonna put you in a situation where you can no longer work, like physically, emotionally, you can't do anything. And so essentially I had taken a sabbatical because I, you know, and used like all my savings, and I didn't really have a direction of like where I was going or like what I wanted to do. But I just was like, I don't know. And as soon as that happened, like doors just started opening for me. um like I ended up getting into a trauma informed yoga teacher training that I got like a full ride scholarship to do. I ended up getting into a 5-month farming program, like a farming education program, that they also gave me free housing and I got a full ride scholarship to do.
Nice.
Like everything just started opening up, like yeah, and though ever since then, my life has done like a complete 180. Like I've been more connected with that like farming practices because I knew that I wanted to be more connected to the land and to nature, but and I wanted to be connected to the practice of farming, but I didn't necessarily know why.
Mhm.
Until this past year, I went and I visited so on my dad's side, we're from Kenya, and I went to go visit our village, you know, where we're from in Othaya, Kenya, which is like in the highlands in Kenya, and it faces Mount Kenya. And it's because like we come from an agrarian community, like we're all farmers, and so it makes sense, like as I'm starting my Saturn return and I'm, becoming an adult and learning how to like take care of myself, it's like that's always been our way. It's like the way you take care of yourself is you learn how to grow your own food, you learn how to like raise your own animals, you learn how to like collect rainwater, you do like your basic things so you have like everything that you need to survive. And so yeah, being connected with them has completely changed my lifestyle for sure.
Yes. Whew, I love that. I love that, love that, love that. So earlier I was saying, I think I was actually writing in my journal and I was saying, like, thank you, God, for giving me the ability to be open and receptive to abundance in any form that it may come. And so you had said, that you received a full scholarship for your trauma-informed yoga teaching, you received a full scholarship for your farming. And it's just like, that's exactly what I was talking about. Earlier this year, I was like, I need to incorporate more. I need to incorporate yoga more into my practice because I add it here and there when I do challenges, but because I don't have any type of certifications or anything, it's not like an official thing that's in my coaching or in my lineup when I'm doing like just session to session or group coaching or whatever the case may be. So then at the end of May, after I started Purging Progress, I started applying for scholarships to yoga teaching programs. Ended up getting one, and it felt like it was so easy, even though like I was like, oh my God, I'm not gonna get this, like they don't want me. But like it was like a week later, they were like, we'll be happy to have you. This is the curriculum, this is when you need to show up. And so I've been doing that and it's been beautiful, challenging, but beautiful. And then I said, I was like, Spirit, I need to sharpen up on my business and marketing skills. Like I'm trying to figure this out and throw things against the wall and see if they stick. And I just can't figure it out. So then couple of days after that, like I think I got like an email. I don't even know why I got this email, but it was from edX and it was like a Harvard business course. And it was only like $200 for the certification, which you only have to pay when you finish the course, which is not bad for a Harvard business course. So I was like, I'm gonna take it because this is what I've been asking for. And then this morning I was freaking out because I had a family emergency that I needed money for. And I hate asking for money, hate asking for money. But Spirit was like, just ask. Like, just ask. You never ask for anything, just ask. What's the worst that can happen other than you being told no? So I asked, received like within 10 minutes. And like that's the beauty of having that relationship because it really does, it takes away the separation. It's like because of the separation, we only see things one way. And we don't realize that we have so many options. Like some people think their only choice is to live in an apartment and pay rent every month, or buy a house and have a mortgage, or have a car and have a car note. Like some people think that's their only choice. Like they don't have any other way to manifest things and to make things happen. When in all actuality, there are people who make a living house sitting and don't have a place to call home. Like there are people who make a living truck driving. They don't have their own car. It's just like perspective. So when you said that, that's what it made me think of. And it really just brought me back to just this morning because I swear I was in panic mode. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know how I'm gonna figure this out. And 10 minutes done before 9 o'clock solved.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I feel like when I'm moving in alignment, like I'm just always reminded that like a way will be made. Like a way is always made. Yeah, because we're being guided. So
yeah. And that's really, it's not even just, I think, good enough to think that you can just pray to your ancestors like they're genies and ask for what you want, but you have to be intentional about building relationship for sure with spirit and giving of yourself, even if you're not giving a physical offering.
Right.
So yeah, I'm glad that you said that. Oh, this is gonna be a good interview. I can already tell. I can already tell. Okay, so my next question to you, just since we're on this subject already, what, like, how did you feel emotionally speaking about marrying your spiritual practice with your business? Did it come like an easy transition for you, or were you resistant to it initially?
You know, it's interesting with my apothecary, I did not spend 6 months planning, you know, what's having an apothecary. How the progression came was I was already making medicine. Like I was already making teas and body butters and body oils like for my friends in my community.
Mhm.
And the thought just had came one day, also because I was like finishing up an herbalism course too, is that I was like, well, you know, I might as well just put this stuff on Etsy and like see how it goes. And so that's what I did, and I named it after my grandmother, which is that is my middle name, which is Wanjiro, which means the way. Um and yeah, I would say I'm not gonna lie though, like I think for me it's like because it was a very organic process that I created my apothecary, like going into it, I was never like, oh, I want it to be like a business. I want it, you know, to make a certain amount of money for it. I want to have posting goals and like things like that. Like it was really not, I was not organized. Like I did not have that at all. It was like, I'm a home like herbalist. I'm doing this stuff in my kitchen. I'm gonna share it with my community. Um, but I think when I initiated it, Spirit was like, oh, okay, you gotta step into this work. We gotta make sure you step into this work. And so it's been honestly like I was talking to my friend about this the other day that over the past couple of years, I had actually felt a lot of like creative blockage when it came to it. And like I had a lot of success when I first started it. Like every time I would post, I would always sell out like
Mhm.
in a few days. And because it was just me, I literally could not keep up with the demand like on my own. Like, and then at that time, it started shifting into like, I didn't feel the intention around making the medicine as much anymore. It was just like, let me just put this stuff together and ship this
Yeah.
off. And then I think that's when spirit kind of pulled me back and was like, you know, this is not how you need to be showing up to the work. And but it's interesting at that time is also when I started my journey with like farming. Um, and part of like the reason that I started in farming as well is because I wanted to grow my own medicine. Like I wanted to grow my own like herbs and things like that because I have been sourcing and I still do source from like, you know, companies that are like in the US or like other places, but I really wanted to have like that relationship of like, you know, growing things from seed, like speaking to like my like rosemary bush or like the tulsi that I'm growing, and then pouring love and intention into it, and then harvesting and drying it, and like being there for like the full process because I wanted to deepen my medicine in that way. And so, yeah, I think to answer your question succinctly, like, it has been sometimes of a conflict because there's certain things where it's like when it comes to business, there's like things that people recommend, or you know, you want to do this to like boost where you are in the algorithm or get more visibility. But I think for me, it's like never been that. Not saying that eventually it couldn't grow into that, but I think that there was a lot of spiritual growth that I had to do before like um essentially like revitalizing it again, because now I do feel like I'm in a place where like I want to create more offerings. Even the community conjure days, like I'm offering that through my apothecary, and I'm expanding the idea of what that work looks like. But I think spirit made me do like a couple years of like internal work before I was able to get to this point of like, just being able to be more organized in that way. So, yeah.
That makes sense. It's always transitional for sure. Always. And every transition I think comes with its own set of resistance from us because we think one thing, but then things end up manifesting into something else that were unexpected. And then it's like, oh, okay, this is why you wanted me to surrender to that. And
Yeah.
then it's like, all right, either I've already surrendered because you pulled me by the hair and made me, or I have no choice but to surrender now. So that makes sense. I like that. You were intentional because I just think that the intentionality of certain things is being watered down, and I just don't like it.
Hmm.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
It just really bugs me because I'm not even gonna say it bugs me, it scares me because people are already seeking and searching for something, and then to have the thing that they're searching for be perverted,
Hmm.
it leads them further down into like a spiral of confusion and lack and separation. And I hate to see that pattern, but you know, you can't you can't bring everyone along on the journey.
There's a lot of, I don't know if I could cuss on here.
You can cuss, you can cuss.
Like, there's a lot of fake shit out there. I think one thing that I've been learning over the past few years is like, there's a lot of people are really good at smoking mirrors, like really good at smoking
Ooh,
mirrors.
yes.
There's a lot of like, I mean, we see it with like the AI stuff, but not just that, it's like how people do marketing, how people use language. It's like all of that is like spell casting. It's like, but I've seen it where it's like some people are really good at that, and then at the core of what they're offering, it is rotten. Like it is pure like just there's no good from it. But it's like if you're really doing the work, you can see it, you know? Like you can see it and you can feel it when it's fake, but not everyone has that discernment, especially when they've um had like come from a place of like had like spiritual abuse in the past where it's like people are posturing themselves as this certain thing, but they're really just taking advantage of people. So yeah, it is scary. Like I'd be talking to my friend sometimes because who's also doing this work, and she's a Capricorn too, and she's like, girl, we going into spiritual warfare. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, like I've been feeling that of like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that is out there, and that's part of the work too. I think the work that I am doing now is like we gonna enter some deep shadow work where it's like there's gonna be a lot of fake shit and a lot of people's like demons and stuff, and like we're gonna have to know how to work with that. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. With the spiritual warfare, for sure. You, man, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother different time because we could really just go deep, deep into that. But we definitely need to be learning how to cast out demons,
Mm-hmm.
stay protected,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to be disciplined, like about what you feed into. And
Mm-hmm.
discernment is like a big part of that because people are good at smoke and mirrors and they present things as one way, but then like you said, at the core, it's all BS. Like there's nothing at all, no depth, no substance, nothing. Um, and it's unfortunate. It really is. But that's another reason why I wanted to do this podcast, because I just wanted to show like everybody has a process, and it's okay to be in the midst of the process because we're always going to be evolving. But nothing that you do is ever going to be as good as just getting into alignment with who you are
Yes.
and what you came here with, because that's different for everybody, but we all have the responsibility to do it and to show up to it. Like, you know, maybe some of us hear the call louder than others, and that's why it's so hard for people to just see things at the surface.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even with that, at the age that we're in now, the way things are, I just feel like if you don't know, it's because you don't want to know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like we're so inundated with, we're like overloaded with information too.
Mhm.
It's like our minds are so preoccupied by shit that does not matter. Like I just see a lot of that, of like people worrying about shit that does not matter, or like the wrong things. And that's programming, because it's like it's internal, like like our minds are preoccupied by the wrong thing. And but yeah, and there is this deep sense of denial, I think, and maybe that's part of like a lot of like the fakeness or like smoke and mirrors that's out there, of like we're so used to fake being real that it's like when we feel something, like I just see how deep denial runs through, like just in the ways that we show up. Like, you know like when's the last time you talked to some, I mean, it's probably different in like the circles and relationships that you have, but it's like whenever you're just talking to someone, like you ask them how they're doing, like when's the last time someone said how they really felt, you know?
Yes. Oh my God, I was just talking about that. That's so true. I was just talking to my wife about that because I don't know. I think it's like you said, it's programming. People just have become so used to saying, I'm fine or I'm okay. How are you? Like, it's
Mhm.
almost like a hypnotic response that we do
Mhm.
that. Just like when someone sneezes and people say bless you and they don't know why they say it. It's
Yeah.
just like a cue goes off in your brain and this is what you say. But me being me, if I ask you how you are, I want to know, how are you really?
Mhm.
Like, really and truly, how are you? And some people, like, let alone tell you how they are, they can't even admit to themselves how they are.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's why they can't talk about it. But I don't know. I can't think of a word for it right now, but
Yeah.
it's like it creates this stagnancy, because I just like, see, just saying that, I feel like that feeling is just stuck in my chest. Like,
Mhm.
so I can only imagine how like the person feels, you know?
Yeah, because I know that there are a lot of us here that are just like suffering and like really feel challenged. And that kind of makes me sad that it's like like society has come to a point where it's like we don't even feel like we can really be honest with each other about what's going on. Because that's something that I notice like when I go to like other countries, or especially when I go like back home to Kenya, is like you feel the differences of just like the everyday, and how the everyday just like impacts us in just our lifestyle and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I see this a lot in the US, is that like a lot of us are, number one, very isolated, like working remotely. We live in a very like individualist culture where it's like you do everything by yourself, like you run the household by yourself, just like we're alone a lot of the time. but then we're also overstimulated and like overworking, and that's just like normal. And so a lot of us are like, yeah, isolated, not feeling connected to one another, and really struggling, but we don't even know when we're in public spaces together how to even like be honest about that. And that's really hard because it's like that drives the isolation and depression and, feeling alone, and even like doing shadow work and stuff. Like shadows thrive in the dark. It's like when you can't shine light on that, it just grows and grows and grows. And yeah, I think that's why, coming back to this podcast of why these spaces are important, is like we need spaces to just talk honestly about the shit that's going
Yeah.
on.
Like, seriously, I'm so happy that the whole theme so far has been back to community. I don't know why I just knew that that was going to be like a big thing in our conversation, but it really has. And I haven't even asked you a lot of specific questions towards community. No, but yeah, like we really do need to be having these conversations, and we need to be willing to be more honest. And that's another reason why I want to just showcase different people's journeys. Like, you know, there are some people who, once they found self awareness and accountability through their ancestors, they got out of addiction, or, they were able to improve their physical health, and, they were not necessarily healed of some diseases, but they were, um, some ailments were alleviated from just building that relationship. And I just think it's important that we talk about not just building relationship with spirit, because of course that's a journey that we all have to take on our own, to a certain degree, but building community and relationship in spirit with people who are kind of like on the same vibration as you and working towards the same aims. You don't necessarily always have to agree on everything, but if the intention is the same, that's really what matters. And I just, we've gotten so far removed from that because of society, really, and programming, that I think it's going to be really hard to navigate back to that. But deep down in my soul, I really feel like that's where we're headed as a society. We're not going to have any choice but to be in that space. And so it's like you're either going to be behind the whip driving it, or you're going to be in front of it getting your ass beat.
Yeah, yep.
So might as well just get up now and get it together.
Exactly. No, I feel that because I feel like it's also like a really opportune time. Like I see a lot of people seeking and searching. Like I feel like especially over the past few years, there's a lot of people that have just been in like spiritual crisis, like
Mhm.
just searching for something, like trying to make sense and understand, because like society just had this like huge tower moment where it's like everything is just like crumbling down, systems that we had in place crumbling down, our ways of understanding and being completely shifting, our lifestyles completely shifting, like so much of that. And I think, when those things happen, it's like people are looking for something, for answers, you know and so I think it is also an opportune time, because I do see a lot more people, like I'll say with everything going on, it's like I also do see a lot more people like starting to connect more with their ancestors, even in like the small ways. And like if I'm real with myself, that's how my journey started too, is just like, the small things of like what was like grandma's recipe for this, or just like, little things where it's like you don't even know that you're doing ancestor work by like asking these questions, but you are. And so I'll say that I feel like a lot more like I see the shift that's happening. Um, but people are going to deal with it in their own ways. But we're also going to need that, like, we're going to need people to step into their power. We're going to need people to step into their work because, yeah, what we're going up against is very deep. So, yeah.
Mhm. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Okay, so let me ask you this question. How do you feel that shadow integration plays a role in your success?
Mm,
Um, and when you speak to this, you know, people always talk about doing shadow work and like getting your shadow under control.
mm,
Um, I do believe that we need to get our shadows under control. We need to have discipline and restraint. We need to learn how to be have principles and certain lines that we won't cross. But beyond that, we also need to really focus on shadow integration because your shadows they never go away. You're
mm,
not absolved of your shadows at any given point. They're always in within you. It's just a matter of learning to use them to your advantage in ways that are for your good instead of
mm.
allowing them to sabotage you. Um, so one, how do you feel that that's played a strong role in your success? But two, what are some ways that you've really seen that show up in your life in real time?
Yeah, that's a good question. Especially as we jumping into the shadow season too. But yeah, it's changed a lot of things for me. I call it shadow integration.
Me too.
Yeah. I think maybe I got that term from you, honestly. From,
I feel like it's the best way
yeah,
to look at it, honestly.
yeah. But yeah, it's completely changed me and how I show up. Like, um, all of us like have that duality of like light and dark. And I think for a long time I repressed my shadow because I didn't want to. I think I was stuck in like a victim mentality for a long time of like seeing myself as a victim to the things that were going on around me and not seeing how my choices could also play into what was happening around me.
Oh, yes.
Because it's so much easier to like point the finger and be like, it's this person and this environment and this thing that's going on without saying, like, what about me is attracting this?
Mhm.
What about like attracting these situations? What about myself is also like adding to like the shadows or whatever is going on in this situation or in this dynamic? And like, how am I actively choosing to be in this, right? Because the thing about, I think what's dangerous about being in like stuck in a victimhood mentality is that like I like I take my power away, like I'm giving my power away to someone else and saying like you're the person that holds this power over me and you're the reason why I'm feeling this way. um and I think that is really dangerous because then it's like you see how that impacts people, like you just start to feel disempowered, like I don't have control over my circumstances. It's everybody else's fault. What am I supposed to do? And it's like people just step out into their power and then they just decide to like live this life, and it's hard to see because it's like I've seen how it can manifest over time of just like, like resentment and like being controlling and just a lot of other things. And I think I've seen that like happen in elders and in my family. And so I kind of knew I was like I wanted to deal with this because like I don't want to feel like um yeah, just seeing myself in that. And so I had to really look at myself and see how I was like contributing to situations. And it's not just that. I'm like I have a whole library of of shadows as we all do. But I think how it's helped me, it's really helped me show up more in my authenticity. Cause also like when I show up in spaces, I'm not trying to posture myself and be like, oh, I'm the person with all the answers, or I'm the one that has done my work. And I'm in a place where I'm like love and light. And I'm like, listen, it's not love and light all the time. Like It definitely is not. It's like I be suffering too. I be going off on people too. Like I feel frustrated too, you know. And I think people actually really appreciate that. Is because I feel like it's allowed me to be more emotionally authentic of like um I am like light and dark. And I think once like I when I'm able to give light to my shadow and like I'm like love is a strong word, but like accept, like radically accept like my shadow and like make peace with it, I feel like I am also less scared of other people's shadows. Like I used to cower away and like be really just like skittish when it's like I would see people's shadows like come out, especially like come out at me. But now I'm like, okay, like I can like look at a dragon in the face. I can see your shadow, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna talk through this. Like, what's going
Yes.
on? You know? Right? And so I feel like it's also helped me step into my power because I'm just like, I'm not really afraid of people's shadows anymore, you know, because that's the thing, is like they be lurking. Like people be doing like the smoke and mirrors and you like see and you feel it, like you feel their shadow. But it's like it's interesting because now I'm in a place in the work where it's like I don't even know why, but people's shadows just be jumping out at me. It's like we could be having just like a regular conversation and then all of a sudden it's there. And then it's like, you know, I'm not saying that it's my role, but it's like, you know, I can't, I don't know if it's just like I be triggering people and shit comes out. But it's like I gotta learn how to work with it because that's like I don't know. That's just what happens now where I am in my journey. So, yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. I think when you get to a certain point of your spiritual journey, your understanding grows. And so whereas other people's shadows may have caused some offense, may have caused you to be triggered, may have pushed you into a space where you felt vulnerable or even like afraid sometimes, like
Mm,
in the space that you're in now, it's just like, okay, I understand how you can feel like that or why you may be there, but that's not the case. And that's something that you need to work through. And it's not for me to take on, but if you need help, I can help you,
yeah.
help you
You
with
know what
it.
it is? You know what I think it is that I feel like the smoke and mirrors things doesn't work on me. And I think that's why a lot of the times it's like they just drop the mask and the, the demon
Well,
just comes out.
you're right, because when you have like a certain level of self-awareness, people will cower away from you initially, because
Mm-hmm.
if you can see yourself, then you can see other people. It's
Mm-hmm.
just as simple as that. But then when you deepen that, right, and then you're actively doing work to enhance your gifts, you're actively walking in those roles and practicing your gifts, then it's enhanced tenfold. And people, they may not even know that, like at the front of their mind or at all, but they can feel it. Like when you walk in a room, when you're having a conversation, not everybody wants to be seen, but then they know they can't hide. So then imagine if you're someone who wants to hide, can't hide. What part of you is going to come out? Your
Yeah.
shadow,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, I mean, it makes sense what you're saying. I think it has to do with spiritual evolution. I feel like I have always had that problem, not because I've always been this deep in my spiritual journey, but because I'm a Scorpio rising. And
Yeah.
people just, I don't know, it's my eyes. Like my mama used to tell me, stop staring at people. It's not intentional that I'm staring at you and looking into your soul, but I just see things like, and then as a child, like I didn't know what I was doing, like,
Yeah.
so I just feel like it's a thing that if you're not self-aware, you can take offense to, because it's like, damn, like, what did I do to make you feel so uncomfortable that you had to jump all out of your body and do all of this?
Mm-hmm.
But people don't like you're irritating their demons. They don't like the fact that, one, you can see it, and two, it doesn't frighten you. And then you're not gonna let it change you or your opinion or where you stand. Like, it just is what it is. That, I don't know why that's so scary for people, but it is. And they have a tendency to not necessarily lash out that they're gonna be violent, but they do like come outside of themselves, and you
They
see
show
parts of them
themselves.
that they try to
Yeah.
hide.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the fear that brings it out, if it's the not wanting to be seen or like the vulnerability, but I have really noticed that as a pattern.
Yeah. It's like I've seen like either sometimes they'll isolate themselves from me or like try to hide themselves from me, or
Mhm.
there's almost like a energy of like you better not say anything. Or it just like straight out will show itself. I've seen all of those. And it's so weird because it's like I just be chilling, with my teeth doing anything. It's just like, oh my God, how did we get here?
Yeah, I feel you. That's how I be feeling too. I'm just like, I'm not even trying to do all of this.
Right. It's a Tuesday. Like,
Like, relax. And then I can just imagine too with your Leo energy, just like,
I'd be so unbothered sometimes. It's hard. I'm
like,
like,
I don't know what to do. I don't know who put a little rain cloud in your cereal today, but I don't got time for it.
I heard one of my friends, she's also a Leo, and one time there was this girl who was just like crying in front of her, just like sobbing. Like just doing, I don't know what. Like she didn't say anything. She was just like going through a breakup and just like, had a full on breakdown. And then she's just like, this is the most Leo thing ever. She was just like, oh girl, just listen to some Megan Thee Stallion, you'll be fine. And I laughed so hard.
Oh man, that is hilarious. I'm not even gonna lie. As a Leo moon, that is definitely some shit that I would say. Like, girl, go put some Megan Thee Stallion on. Twerk one time. It's gonna be
Yeah,
all right. Plenty of fish in the sea.
exactly.
Girl, you are the sun. Shine. Okay. Go
Right?
outside. Put them knees to work.
Yes, exactly.
That is hilarious. Yeah, I don't know if y'all know this, but Leos, they are very like kind-hearted people. They're very loving, but they don't have time to deal with all of your negative emotions and bullshit. Like, they will definitely ignore the fuck out of you if you're not trying to get out of whatever it is that you in. Now, if you're about it, they will help you along the way. Willingly, they will give you their hand and say, come on, girl, hold my hand and let's go. But if you just want to be sad and you just want to be depressed, you just want to be in despair, a Leo is not the person that you want to call on, baby. It's just not. It's
No,
not work.
definitely
It's
not.
not work.
That's
Okay,
for
so
like
this,
the water signs. Ask the water signs about that.
call you
What
a Pisces, a
Capricorn will put you to
Cancer.
work? Yeah.
Mhm. So that's a good segue into my next question. What is your sun, moon, and rising sign? And how would you say that it affects you most, first spiritually and then in your relationships?
Mm, that's a good question. My son is in Leo. If you couldn't tell. And then my moon is in Cancer, and then my rising is in Virgo.
Nice. I love that you have two luminaries in your big three.
Yeah. What does luminary mean?
It's like the sun and the moon, like
Okay.
planets that are not really planets, they're just lights.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I feel like all three aspects show up quite a bit in my work. I would say for my Leo sun, like I'm a very social person. Like, well, actually, no. I wouldn't say I'm a social person, but it's easy for me to like socialize with people and like build connections with people. And I'd say like I love like my work is very feels very bold. Like I love to take up space and like um uh show up in like the fullest expression of myself. Like creative self-expression is really important for me. And being tapped into my creativity and my creative energy is something that is very important for me. And so there's that. My Virgo rising, I'd say actually a lot of people like when they first meet me, like they say that like I give a little bit more Virgo energy, which I'm like, get to know me.
When I first met you, you definitely gave Leo.
Yeah. Maybe it's like the environment that I'm around because I'm like when I feel very comfortable, like my Leo will definitely come out. But yeah. Yeah, but also I feel like you see me, so it's a little different.
When
Um,
I first met you, I feel like it was in one of Mel's yoga classes.
uh-huh.
You didn't have any hair.
Oh yeah. I was bald.
And yeah, and you just were like this, just like this bright light in the room.
Mhm.
Couldn't miss you if I wanted to, not because you were bald, but just like your energy was just light. And then so later on when we talked, I found out you were a Leo. I'm like, makes sense.
Mhm. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So Virgo rising, like I'm also a community organizer as well. And like organization is something that's very important for me or to me because I don't know, I think it just helps my brain. But it's also like I see the benefits of like being organized and like having structure and just like how that's able to like especially as a community organizer like multiply the work that we do, but also it's like it's important for me to bring people together. Like that's a really big that's something that's really important to me because it's just in my blood. Like my parents were that way. They were the people that were always like throwing like the neighborhood parties and like cooking for people. My grandparents are the same way. They always would bring people together. So and Virgo is also very nurturing as well. Like I love cooking for people and hosting people and making people feel welcome. Um and then my Cancer moon shows up just in my intuition. Like I'm just very intuitive, like emotionally. It's hard, I think, for people to like hide emotionally from me. Like I just be like seeing shit or feeling stuff. And yeah, I'm definitely can be very sensitive and I like my home space too. Like my like shell, my home is like very important for me to like tune into myself because it is very easy for me to like pick up on other people's energies, but I'm also have been getting a lot better of practicing like emotional boundaries or emotion or energetic hygiene. But yeah, that's kind of how I see all three show up in my just in me.
That's a nice mix. And even just for it to be your sun, moon, and rising, it makes so much sense with what you do. Because when
Mhm.
you think about the fact that, Leo is ruled by the sun, Cancer is ruled by the moon, then you have Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury. It's just like bringing that balance, communicating, being that bridge. Like it just all makes sense. See, I'll be telling y'all, really, astrology is like the blueprint for everything. Astrology and numerology connect back to everything. Um, and it's so crazy because normally it doesn't work like that, where it's just right there in your sun, moon, and rising. Like usually you gotta dig a little bit deeper, but in yours, it's right there. It makes sense. And on top of that, you're kind of like a natural ambivert. Like you have your times when you just are like, fuck people, I don't want to deal with them. I'll rather be at home in my little sanctuary, in my bubble, don't bother me. And then you have times where you're like, I want to explore the world and come here, girl, let me hold your hand, give me a hug. I want to go out, I want to dance, I want to vibe, you know? So it's just like a nice, um, it's a nice trinity, especially for someone who does a lot of social work for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Both, you know,
Yes.
spiritually and from the mundane perspective as well.
Yeah, that's real. Because I think that that is actually like the balance that is necessary for me. Because part of my journey is that my ancestors literally moved me out to like 17 acres of land in the countryside
Yeah, you
in
told me
Elgin.
that. I forgot about that. So talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that for the
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, honestly, that was one of the biggest ways that like my ancestors have showed up for me because I just did not expect it. But yeah, whenever I was moving into like my farming work and then I was graduating the farming program that I did, I realized after because I was living on that farm too. Um and I noticed for myself, I was like there was huge changes in my body and my nervous system just being able to be on land every day and being
Mhm.
able to like see like wide open spaces and to be able to like see far and to put my feet in the soil and to like breathe fresh air. Like there were things that like I noticed certain issues or challenges would come up, but I could process them so much easier because I could just like give it to the land, give it to the earth. And my natural rhythm like felt like more slowed down and everything. And so I just put that intention out there that I was like, whenever I leave this place, I would really love to live somewhere that has green space. But I was super open to it. I was like, it can be a house with roommates and a backyard. Like I'm like, it could be in like a trailer on some land. Like I was so open to what it could be. Um, and I was just looking on Craigslist and then one day I just found this property and it said like, sanctuary on like 17 acres out in Elgin. And I was just like, okay, let me just go visit it. And when I tell you, Shawnee, like my body, like the whole time I was driving here, the first time was just like shaking. And then, like, on your way to the property, you go down this like long, winding road that has trees that just like cover it. Like, it feels like you're going into like a portal. And then, I got onto the property and there's like three houses here and I met with like the landowner and she was showing me the space which is like where I am now. And I remember walking to it into it for the first time and I was just like, this is my home. And her response to that was like, well, welcome home. And I remember at the time, like, I didn't have the money to put like because she was asking for like a security deposit and like first month's rent, and I didn't have both. I was like, I could pay, the first month's rent, but I couldn't pay the security deposit. And I just had a friend that lent that to me. Like just, my mom couldn't even help me out with that. Like the money
Yeah.
just came. And then I remember at the time like I was dealing with a lot of stuff with my credit because I had some like medical bills that I hadn't paid off and and then the landlord was just like and I just had told her about it and she was like, yeah, don't worry about it, we'll make it work. Like everything just like opened up and it was made so easy. Um, but yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's been a journey. So I've been here about a year now, and it is so quiet. Like I'm like, even when I stop talking, like I hear the silence. Um, and I was talking to an artist friend of mine, and she said that like she went through a similar journey where her ancestors like put her out in the desert. And she said the message that came through when that happened was, we put you out here so you could listen. And the first thing that I noticed when I came out here is that my dreams started to get a lot more vivid. Like I started remembering my dreams. And yeah, it's like at night, all I hear is like my AC unit, cicadas. I hear roosters. Sometimes I hear like pack of coyotes at night. Like it's been really magical, but I would say that first year was a really hard to like learn how to expand into that. And then also getting used to like being a Black woman out here in the countryside, like by myself, and just
Yeah.
also like the country is like beautiful, but it can also be really dark too. And so I've had to like learn to just be on it when it comes to my protection work. And not just protecting myself, but protecting my home too. Like that's been really important. Like I've had to learn how to be okay with the silence and the stillness, because this is a deeper level of like silence. Like when it's quiet, and I think at first my body wasn't used to that level of quiet, and I was always trying to fill it with something. But I feel like it's been a process of me learning how to be okay with it so I can listen to the messages that are trying to come through. Um, and also just sometimes feeling like just isolated, because I'm also like I don't really know people in Elgin like that yet. Like I have certain spots that I go to and I talk to people when I'm out, but I don't have like family here or community here. Like they're all in like Austin. And so I do make the trip and stuff like that, but it is a different just like life experience, and it's forced me to like learn how to be more okay with like being sitting with myself on like this level. But also it's forced me the times that I do spend with people to just be more intentional, because it's like if I'm driving 40 minutes to an hour to go into the city, it's not going to be on some bullshit. It's like my time is precious. Like I want to be intentional about the people that I'm spending it with, and like the conversations that we're having and the spaces that we're going to. Like all of that stuff matters to me. But yeah, like I feel like it's exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. So I don't know, I'm just here. I'm here.
I love that. It makes so much sense. Like, I mean, I'm all for the quiet in the country. Like, I was born and raised in Houston, but my grandparents have always had a house in San Marcos. And then when I was probably like 12, they bought a house in Fulshire, Texas. And living in Austin and San Marcos has grown. But back then, when I was a kid, there wasn't nothing down here.
Yeah.
Nothing. Just the college, a few apartments, and mostly just like houses and land. And then going to Texas State, moving down to San Marcos to do that, and then moving. I thought I wanted to move to Austin because of just community, but then I was like, I don't want to be in the middle of like the metropolitan area and like all that noise and busyness. So then I settled on Kyle because San Marcos is just growing so fast at that time. And it's a college town through and through. And I was through with college. So I was like, yeah, it's time for me to go. Me and my wife, she was just my girlfriend at the time, but when I think back, like one of the big things that made us choose the apartment that we chose is that it was like right next to like a big open field and like this farm with like cattle and horses, and like we could literally stand on our balcony, watch the sunset, hear the cows, see the horses. And so it was beautiful. We since moved from that apartment, but even at our new place, like there's an open field right next to it. You can see the horses, you can hear them in the morning, you can hear the roosters. And I just can't wait to live in the middle of my land and just like homestead. Like I don't know. I feel like I was just meant to live like that, because being in the middle of the city has never felt right to me, even though that's how I've always lived up until now. So I totally get what you're saying. And it does take time to adjust to the silence and not want to fill that space with something, because you just get so used to being distracted, honestly, because that's what it is, distractions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what, so you shared a lot about, connecting with your ancestors and building community. But we all know that in practicing regularly, that there are some things that we must keep sacred, and kind of like be quiet about. I don't want you to talk about what it is that you do, but I just want you to speak to your opinion on having certain practices that you do keep sacred to yourself and the importance of that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Cause I feel like that's actually the most important work for me. Um, it's like what I give out into the world or what I pour out into the world, that is supposed to be from the overflow of the work that I do for myself. Um, because that's like for me what is like the true healing is the work that I do for myself. But yeah, I have my practices. I mean, I practice daily. Um, whether it is like and it's interesting because I think after I did my yoga teacher training, my idea of practice is also a lot more fluid because it's like for me, my practice could be, making a cup of tea, which is like some tea that I have from like my family's land in Kenya, and making that in the morning and just sitting out on my front porch and like listening. That's a practice, pouring libations and like giving offerings to my altar, which I do every day. That's a practice. Like working with the moon, doing spiritual baths, yoni steams. But I think a lot of it is just coming back to myself and my guides. Um, there are like so many different mediums and ways that I do that. Now I'm like, that's why it feels very fluid, because it's like I could be, reading a book and then all of a sudden I'm getting an answer from an ancestor,
Oh, yes. I was just talking about that. That's so true. But
Yeah.
everything is practice, really. I mean, you could be putting on makeup and just hear a voice say, "Put on a red lip," and you put that red lip on. That could be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, yeah, what comes up for me when you say that is like remembering that like life is like a ritual.
Mm-hmm.
And so I treat every day like a ritual, and um how do we show up different to like I feel like how that has changed like my life for me is that I show up to my life like it's sacred, like it is a sacred space, and like when I show up like that, like I move differently in a space. Um I move differently through my life because like I realized that like this is a ceremony, like the day is the ritual, you know, and like how do I show up in that? And it's been um yeah, like I really have like a lot of love and appreciation and gratitude for the life that I'm living. Um and I know I'm getting emotional saying this, but it's like I know my ancestors know that, and I think that's why they have like blessed me with so much is because they know how grateful I am for, you know, even things like this, just like the everyday, the small blessings, because it's like I didn't need 17 acres of land, you know. I really didn't, but it's like, you know, we're gonna give this to you because we know that you will appreciate it, you know.
Yeah, and you'll use it for a community.
Yeah, and share it with others just because of who you are. And
Yes.
so, yeah.
Ooh, girl, you have said some powerful things on this episode. I cannot wait to drop. And you know what? It's so in alignment. Everything that you're saying right now is just so in alignment because I've been telling myself, and I mean, I practice every day. I go to my altar, I pray, I refresh my ancestral altar. I mean, offering every day. But just like with my practice with myself and my personal like self-care and discipline, I just felt like I had been falling off until May when one of my clients wanted me to create like a specific coaching program for them. So then I created this 6-week thing called Purge in Progress. I ended up doing it with her and then two more of my clients. And a big part of that process was fasting, prayer, and meditation.
Mhm.
Um, and these are things that I always do, but I wasn't doing it every day or like at a specific consistency of the week. But doing it with those three clients, it made me be consistent with it. So then, like, I just kept hearing this voice tell me, like, you need to focus on self discipline because, you know, you're over here trying to build kingdom and you need to enforce your dominion and show up like who you say you are.
Mhm.
Every day is a ceremony, everything is a ritual. So I'm like, okay, I need to get really strict about my morning routine and my evening routine because I'm not a morning person. I was born at 3 o'clock in the morning. So typically I'm like tired or just gone to bed early in the morning. And then at night, because you know everybody sleeps at night and I'm up, I'm like in creative mode. So I'm like journaling, I'm strategizing, I'm envisioning stuff, drawing stuff out. So I'm like, this is not going to work. You're being too chaotic, and you
Mhm.
need to do better. So I'm like, you're gonna get up, you're gonna move your body, you're gonna meditate, you're gonna pray, and you're gonna journal to release. You're going to do this in the morning, and you're going to do this at night.
Mhm.
So then I started on the 1st of September. I was like, I'm starting this challenge. It's going to be for 75 days, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to stick to this morning routine. I'm going to stick to this evening routine. I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do this. And it's just like my whole intention behind all of that was just making sure that I show up every day how I'm supposed to show up. Like,
Mhm.
because it's just so easy to be distracted because that's essentially what it is, just being distracted even though you're doing things that may seem productive. Like me planning admin for my business is productive, me posting for my business is productive, marketing for my business is productive. But if I'm not taking care of me and showing up like who I say I am, I can't expect other people to believe me,
Mhm.
you know. So everything that you're saying right now, it just is like giving me confirmation of messages that I've been receiving over the past few weeks from my ancestors. Because after July, when I did the Purge and Progress challenge for the public, I was like, I'm not doing no more challenges. That was a lot of work to be filming all this content for free every week, 3 times a week. Oh my God, I'm tired.
Yeah.
It's like you're gonna do video diaries every day. And I'm like, what? What?
Like, can y'all give me a break, please?
You kidding me? What? Me, a Scorpio rising every day. I'm a Capricorn spirit. You want me to be doing this? No return on the investment. Are you kidding me? And they're like, yes, this is what we want you to do. So just do it. So I'm like, all right. I have no choice. I have no choice. And it's just like everything that I've done since the 1st of September, confirmation after confirmation after confirmation, including this interview. So thank you for that. Okay, I've got 3 more questions for you, and then we can wrap up. First, what is your advice to someone who is looking to connect with their ancestors, doesn't really know what to do, and just wants to be able to start somewhere?
Hmm. I would say remember. That's the word that comes up to me is remember, like retrieving and recalling those times, like that maybe your grandmother told you something, like your papa told you something, your parents told you something, your great aunt or someone told you something that you may have not thought as important at the time. And just write that down. Like it could be random, it could be a story, it could be a recipe, it could be a memory that you have with them. But yeah, taking some time to just remember, um, and be open if that leads you to something else, leads you to maybe going back to them and being like, hey, like, I remember we had this conversation, like, ask them to tell you that story again or ask for more details. Um, if there are any, because I know there's a lot of people out there that is like they may not know or they may not feel connected with anyone in their family that has passed because of just like trauma, separation, a lot of different things. I would invite you to open yourself up to maybe ancestors that are not blood related that have like influenced you as well. Like I also have like Toni Morrison on my altar, and I have like Zora Neale Hurston on my altar. And I also ask them, people whose work has like influenced me. Um yeah, and I think like just being open is really important because the way that like our society works, we're very cerebral, so it's like sometimes we want to understand something completely from like an intellectual level before we like allow ourselves to be in it. And I would say just like you don't have to have all the answers, you don't have to understand, like just being open is what is key. um and being open to allowing that to lead you. Like it might be like we said, you're reading a book and all of a sudden you get an answer on something. Maybe that leads you to another book or having a conversation or listening to a podcast or like going back to spiritual scripture, like being open to where that's leading you, and not necessarily knowing what the end product is going to be, but just allowing yourself to be led by something outside of you.
Yes. Yes, I would agree with all of them. Second question. What is your biggest pet peeve in sharing your craft, and how would you say that you go about identifying and avoiding energy vampires?
Ooh, that's a good question. My biggest pet peeve is people that try to like capitalize on my work.
Ooh, yes.
It's like you need to do this, and this, and you can make money by this, and this. And if you don't do it, I'm gonna do it. Because I
You
hear that
can't.
too. And I'm just like, I think for me, what has always been really important is being clear on what my work is and what feels like integrity to me and sticking true to that, even when it doesn't make sense to anybody else. Because it's like I'm not doing this for other people's approval. I'm doing this for the work.
For
You
the
know,
impact.
yeah.
That makes sense. And then that's another form of energy vampire too. So that's good. And this is the last question. I'm gonna pull a postcard from Spirit for you and then we'll wrap up. Do you feel like being so deeply connected to your ancestors, to your inner goddess, to the God in you, do you feel like it causes conflict or frustration in your interpersonal or romantic relationships?
Mm. Can you ask that question one more time?
Do you feel like being so connected to yourself spiritually causes frustration or conflict in your interpersonal and romantic relationships?
Absolutely. But I but I feel like it's necessary conflict because I feel like when I see people, like people only see themselves as deeply as they've seen themselves, but it's like when you've seen yourself on a deep level, that's gonna trigger something in people where it's like they haven't seen that as much. But I feel like that is the work too of like, okay, like you triggered by this, we're triggered by this, like that's just an opportunity to like move through it. It's like let's look at the shadows. Let's
Yeah.
look at this, so and that's medicine.
Yes. It's an opportunity to heal for sure. For sure, for sure. Okay. Excuse me. Is there anything else that you would like to add for the people before I give your postcard from Spirit message?
Mm, no, I just wish everyone best of luck during the shadow work season and the retrograde season and um yeah, I would say like always just remember that like you're protected and
Mm.
you're loved and that guidance and support is always there for you if you're open, and yeah, and also like none of us are going through this alone. Like all of our journeys look different, but even if we do feel isolated, sometimes we are we are all going through a similar path together. So
Yeah.
be honest next time someone asks you how you feel.
Yeah, because you're never alone and you never know where that conversation may lead or how you may be able to heal. I wish you guys the best of luck as well through this retrograde season and as we move deeper into the darkness of winter. I was talking to Chosen Eyes a couple of weeks ago, and she had said that she refers to the retrograde season as the underworld period. And I think that makes so much sense,
Mhm.
spiritually speaking, because we are asked during this time to go into the underworld, deal with our demons, you
Mhm.
know, battle it out, release the toxicity, the shame, the guilt, and come back up and move forward so we don't repeat the same cycles next year. So as long as you're willing to do that work and um to receive that medicine, I think you'll be okay during this period. But the more resistant that you are to that, you're just gonna have to struggle it out. I don't know what else to really tell you. Like you just gonna be boxing it out with yourself until
Yep.
next year, this time, and
Mhm.
you can heal it again. But thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for doing this episode. Thank you for your profound insights. You really gave me everything that I thought I was gonna get, and then even a little bit more, and I'm just overjoyed. I might even drop this episode a little bit earlier than I intended to because I feel like it needs to go out now. Like the urgency, the timing, just the alignment of the conversation. It feels like the right time to let these messages out into the public. So your postcard from Spirit says, "Dearest you, even though life seems to be moving full steam ahead, it's a time to rest. Allow ideas to flow through you and take root in your heart before they reach your mind. Honor this process by becoming empty to allow for inspiration and the magic of dreaming. You might feel lazy or unproductive, but we know better. Just as sleep is a way to recharge before renewal, so are you in a time for dreaming. In this powerful process of co creation, your soul emerges with spirit in a profound way, so you can receive your music directly from Source and play your part in the symphony of life. You are being invited to bear witness to the great creation and tune in to what others can't hear. We have so many dreams to share with you in the sacred and the invisible. Don't worry, we will wake you when it's time to return with a new dream. No need to set an alarm clock. Loving you always.
Wow.
Yes, yes, yes. I will send you a picture of that so you can reflect on it, but I feel like that's right on point for where you're at right now.
Mhm.
If you guys are watching this, make sure you comment below, join the conversation. Make sure you thumbs up the video to help us get seen in the algorithm so that other people can take in this wonderful medicine. And make sure you click that button to subscribe. All the links to find myself as well as Ailisha will definitely be down in the description box. And if you guys have any questions, you can drop them down in the comments. Again, girl, thank you so much for your time, and I will talk to you next time.
Yeah, thank you, Shani, and thank you so much for this work.